Welcome to Ultimate DIY, where you learn to be your own handyman. Today, I'm going to show you how to install a GFCI outlet and how to make sure that your RV doesn't burn your house down. All right, guys, you heard that right. Almost burned my house down. This unit is sitting here temporarily on my back lot until it goes to its permanent home. I have a 240 volt line that runs all the way to the front of the trailer, and I used an adapter so I could run 110. I'm not running the air conditioners, but I just want to keep the refrigerator going and a few things like that. Well, somebody decided to get in and run the microwave and a few other things at the same time and literally melted my plug. So we're going to fix that. Also, you'll notice the back of the house in that area looks awful because that is the old part of the house. It's the last section on the back that I have to replace. There's going to be a bunch of framing, door change, and everything else there. So the plug is not GFCI. We're going to go ahead and remedy that today. Put a GFCI outlet in with a protective cover, and we're going to make sure that we're not running a microwave or anything inside of this unit until it gets to its permanent location with permanent power. So let's go ahead and let's get into changing out that outlet. So why did my house circuit breaker not protect me when that receptacle started burning? The reason is a breaker system is designed to work off of amperage. Amperage is going to be the flow of electricity through any one line or circuit. Well, what happens when you're dealing with an extension cord, a small gauge extension cord, and you're plugging it to a high resistance, appliance, like say a microwave, a coffee maker? What's going to happen is it's going to create a voltage drop because it's fighting to get the voltage and amperage that it needs to operate, and that cord is actually restricting the flow. So when it restricts the flow, though, what it's going to do is it's going to create a lot of heat. That heat is not going to register at the breaker. It's not going to know that everything is heating up. It's just looking for that amperage. There's something called Ohm's law in electrical. And what that basically is it's going to be resistance, it's going to be amperage, it's going to be voltage. And if you change any one of them, it effectively changes the others. So if I've got more resistance, technically I'm not going to have more amperage. It's going to restrict my amperage. My voltage is going to go up. But since that cord is so long and it's being restricted, that voltage that it would be going up is now being dissipated as heat, and it's burning up my receptacle. It's burning up the wires going into my house. It's going to burn my RV to the ground before that breaker ever trips. Now, the breaker could trip if the house wiring melts together and you create a short. So now my amperage skyrockets because it goes from my hot back to the neutral really quickly, and it'll trip the breaker. But that may be too late. The fire may already be going by that time. As you could see by the receptacle, it was melting major. If I had not caught it, who knows how far that could have gone. Now, I also know that a lot of you guys out there who are DIYers, homeowners, who are contractors are going to say, hey, yeah, but what about the compressor issue? If I take a long cord and I run it to my compressor and say I'm doing fencing outside and I plug it into a 20 amp, receptacle or a 15 amp receptacle, it's going to snap that breaker like that. But if I go get a 12 gauge, heavy duty extension cord, plug it in, it works fine. So I don't know about your voltage drop situation there. I think it's an amperage still. Well, no, it is still voltage drop, because what's happening is that long cord is doing the same thing, and it's starving your compressor for power. You have to understand, a motor has a startup. Even HVAC, they have capacitors to help it get started. So when it very first starts up, it has a high draw of power. Well, if it's starving for that voltage, for that power in the very beginning, it may run just a little bit longer than it normally would, and in just enough to keep that amperage up above that little spiking mode where it will trip that breaker. Because contrary to popular belief, a breaker doesn't always trip at 15 amps if it's a 15 amp, or 20 amps if it's a 20. It usually has a little threshold for those startups. So when that motor tries to start and it stays at, high a little bit too long, it pops that breaker. Then you go get that heavy duty cord, you put it on, doesn't do it anymore. So that's two different scenarios, but they both operate off voltage drop, not amperage. It's the voltage drop that affects everything, and the voltage drop is what will burn your house down. If you're using an extension cord in your house, be sure it's the correct gauge for whatever it is you're trying to power, and keep the length as small as possible. Honestly, in my own home, I try not to use extension cords at all, because I think they can be dangerous. So hopefully, guys, this helps you understand voltage drop when you're dealing with an extension cord and how important it is. Let's go ahead and let's get back to the video. In today's video, you're going to get to see two different methods for wiring up a GFCI receptacle. The very first receptacle that I wire in fails. It does not work correctly, so I end up installing a second one. The first method, we are going to do the traditional side wire. The second one, we are going to do the back wire clamp style. Now, there is a third method, which is going to be the backstab method, where you just literally put the wire in the little holes in the back of the receptacle. I do not recommend that one, because they tend to lose connection and fail. This is the outlet itself. As you can see, there's no GFCI. There's also no protective cover. You can see where all of the plug itself has started melting out, and it could have actually burnt the house down. If somebody had been standing here in water, it could have shorted and actually electrocuted someone. So we're going to remedy both of those issues by installing this outlet. It's made by Tramac, and it is going to be a protective cover and the GFCI receptacle all in one. So we're going to mount it today and get it put in place. Now, generally I would take the steel cover off. We may just leave that on and leave it extended some, because it'll allow me to wrap the cord around it a little more. And like I said, this entire wall is fixing to come out, so I'll put a more permanent solution in at that point. Now, the very first thing you're going to want to do is use a no contact tester. I love these little ones by Milwaukee. They work really well. Make sure that it's on. You're going to have a little green light here at the actual end, and if there is power, it should go crazy. And it is, meaning we have power. So what I'm going to do before I start is I'm going to go hit the main breaker and shut all the power off. So let's do that. We are good. Everything is dead. So now we can start. So the very first thing I'm going to do is remove this little metal cover, and it's going to have just a straight screwdriver. So we can't use our drill with that. We're just going to take and remove it. Another good reason to have the blanket, guys, is you can put your parts down on it without losing them in the grass. All right, there we go. Now, we have two screws here on the ends. And those are going to be Phillips, so you can use a impact or a regular drill, or a regular... Wow, that was interesting. Take and pull it out. Now, once this is out, I still like to double check one more time. Make sure everything is dead, and it is. And you're going to see I have a neutral, which is the white wire, and I have my hot wire, which is going to be the black wire, and I have an earth ground, or actually it's really called ground, or equipment ground, and it's going to be at the very bottom here, and it's going to be a wire that has no insulation on it. It's just bare. So we're going to undo all these wires. Hey guys, I hope you're getting something out of the video today. If you want to know more about GFCI, how it actually works, I have a video that's dedicated to GFCI. I'll leave a link in the description for you. And if you want to know more about voltage drop and extension cords and how it all works, I put together a free PDF. All you have to do is go to the description, follow the link, and I'll get that to you as quick as possible. I'll probably go ahead and restrip these anyway, because a lot of times when they're bent like this, guys, and you start trying to straighten them, you weaken the wire and it's liable to actually break off on you. So unless I have no extra wire at all, I'll generally just clip those and restrip. Yeah, it was definitely in a little crooked. Technically, how this would work is there should be a box inside of the wall, not just the wires sticking out. So when I put this box on like this, the actual receptacle should be inset into the wall. Since I'm going to take this wall down, I'm not going to go to the trouble of cutting this out and putting a box in. So we're going to leave this right where it was actually at. All right, so we have the box reinstalled. It's time to go ahead and put our GFCI receptacle in. Now this is going to install slightly different than a regular receptacle. If you flip it over, you're going to see that it has a load side and it has a line side. I'm going to have the gold screws or copper colored screws, which are going to be my hots, and I'm going to have the silver, which is going to be my neutral. I have the green, which is going to be the ground, the bare wire. So the trick here is which one is load and which one is line. Line is going to be the incoming power, and your load is going to be going out to the next receptacle if you're daisy chaining this together. We're going to go ahead, let's start with the earth. It's going to be a little bit easier. We're going to go ahead and bend that and get that into place. I just do a little half bend, and we're going to start it right here. See if I can work that in. I'm trying to stay out of your way so that you can see what's going on. But we're going to go just like that. I'm going to close the loop. There we go. And we're going to tighten it down. That one's good to go. Now, we need to find our line, which the line is going to be right here. And see if we can actually get this started. Now you do have stabbing connectors in the back if you like. I don't particularly like to use the stabbing connectors. I like to make an actual loop. And then I'm going to take and middle and start trying to bend. Just like that. So I'll pull it tight and loop it around to close that off, and then we're going to tighten it down. So I get the neutral on like that. I've got the little screw on just enough to try to hold, and then we're going to close it just like that and screw it in. Okay, power is on. I do not see a light. Let's see. You definitely have power, but it's not functioning correctly. Hey guys, real quick, if you have not checked out our new series on tools before their time, last week was a really awesome episode on antique pipe wrenches and monkey wrenches, specifically the Pexto brand and their history. I even give a free guide that you can get through email that's going to tell you everything you need to know about Pexto brand and how to know whether you have a monkey wrench or a pipe wrench. So be sure you check out that episode. I'll leave a link in the description. All right, guys, bad news. This one was actually defective. I should have realized there was something wrong with the button pushed out as far as it goes there, and it would not reset. I thought maybe it just needed to be energized to reset. But that wasn't the case. After pulling it out, checking to make sure all the wires are tight, making sure that I'm actually on the line side, which I was, it still was not functioning. Even though I tested and showed it had power to the unit, the actual internal parts were not functioning correctly. So I went ahead and got another one. We're going to put a Leviton in because the Leviton is actually a really good unit. I install these quite a bit, and I just like the way they work. So we're going to go ahead and put this in and go from there. Now this is going to be the same thing. Now they make this one a little bit easier for you to understand because they tape off the other side, and it does say line. So you're going to put your silver, which is white, on that side. You're going to put your hot wire on the copper color, and we are going to do a ground at the bottom. Same thing, but they tape it off to make sure that you understand that right from the beginning. If you're going to go ahead and daisy chain and feed a few other outlets, you're going to pull the tape off and tie in there. All right, so we've got this done. Let's go ahead and double check, make sure that I have power off. Let's see, we're going to use my regular one right here. And we are hot, so we need to go shut off some power real quick, and then we'll get back to it. We have the green light. Let's go ahead and check. We are totally dead now, which is what we want. We'll set this up on top. Now, this one versus this one, I'm going to show you something here. This is another thing I didn't like about this. That is all the way open. I have a small gap, and the nut wants to fall out, so it was hard to put on. This one, if you back it all the way open, you have a lot of room, and we have stab connections. So I can literally take these and just flatten them. Open it up. Let this fly forward right here so that I can take it now and put it in that groove. And we're going to, just like that, tighten it down. So shake it, slide that in, just like that. Now there's little bars that hold it in, and then we're going to just tighten up the screw. All right, guys, fully installed. Full disclosure, I did have to put different size screws in. All right, I have power on now. Let's go ahead and check it and see. We are showing power to the box. I like using my Milwaukee tester. See what we get. And we are looking really good. So once we test it and everything looks good, we just simply plug it in and we are good to go. This should tuck down and we lock it into place. So there you go, guys, fully installed. GFCI plugs can be a little bit tricky when it comes to whether they're going to function or not. Two of the things I shouldn't have done. First of all, I should have realized the button was all the way out on this and it probably had some type of an issue. And second, I tried to get a discount plug or receptacle because it came with that outer cover and I figured it'd save a little money. Obviously it didn't because it caused me to have to go grab another brand new one like this one. If I were you, get a good name brand one the first time and save yourself that aggravation. All right, guys, if you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, ring that little bell notification button. As a matter of fact, hit it twice. You'll know about all my upcoming videos as I release them. And as always, guys, I appreciate you watching.